Hello everyone. So today I'll be discussing about privacy by design in e-discovery tools, their principles, their practices and protection. So let's get started. So this presentation is based on a research which focuses on privacy issues and solution when we are talking about e-discovery tools that are already out there in the market, which are used to analyze data or information. So in the next slide, let's look at its background. So as you can see it in the slides, e-discovery or electronic discovery is the process of finding, collecting and reviewing electronically stored data or information, mostly for legal purposes in the context of litigation or investigations. But e-discovery tools are not just used in this context. It is also used by other industries like the accounting firms. The big four accounting firms uses the e-discovery tools for investigations purposes in financial transactions, as well as banks. The big four banks also use these tools for investigation purposes. So in a general sense, there are a lot of other e-discovery tools out there in the market like Relativity One, which is used by a lot of accounting firms for the purpose of conducting financial investigations and monitoring transactions. There are also other tools like Entella, which is widely used in the market. So my idea is to come up or develop a tool which is specifically used for finding, analyzing bank transactions and conducting general due diligence with the help of AI. So in this kind of a concept, there are tools out there, but there are no other tools which are exactly doing this kind of a work. So this is my idea that I am going to be working on. So in the next slide, let's look at the privacy related issues regarding this kind of a platform that I want to develop. So privacy is a very notable topic these days. As technology grows with time, so does the means to use it in a negative way. Some of the examples of privacy data breach instances are given in the slides. Let's take a look at the Progress Software's vulnerability attack which happened in 2023. So Progress Software's application called MoveIt, which is used to transfer files from one place or one system to another in a very secure way, was subjected to a zero-day attack, which led to widespread breach of private data of thousands of organizations. Now we have learnt in class that a zero-day attack is so called because it occurs before the victim has an understanding or realizes that there has been a vulnerability. The attacker releases malware before the vendor or the victim or the developer has had an opportunity to create a patch to fix this vulnerability. That is what a zero-day attack is. So in the next slide, let's look at what are the privacy related issues regarding e-discovery tools. So when I look at and analyze different use cases, I understand that there can be a privacy related issues when we talk about interaction between the user and the system. The system in this case would be the e-discovery tool. I have covered a few of these issues in detail in my research, but for the purpose of this presentation, I will be focusing on two important points. The first one being that scanning through these bank documents require approval from appropriate authorities. Obtaining that can be really cumbersome at times. The second point is making sure that there is enough security in place as we are dealing with very personal and sensitive information of different individuals and entities. In the next slide, let's look at what is privacy by design. So what is privacy by design? Privacy by design is a simple concept where the importance of privacy should be given during the initial stage or the designing stage of an application or the development of a tool, or during the initial stages of development of an organization, during the drafting of an agreement. So it basically, in simple words, to put it in simple words, it means that you should focus on the values that are brought out by privacy when you are starting with a project. That is what privacy by design means. So there are 7 important principles that revolve around these privacy by design application processes. And I have mentioned 4 of these principles as you can see it in the slides. So let's talk about them. So the first one being privacy as default settings. So it means that you as a company creator or a person who is creating an agreement should always keep privacy at first and above all. The second point talks about being proactive, not reactive, means you should take preventive measures so as to not reach a point where you are reacting to privacy breaches. The third point is about keeping it visible and keeping it transparent. One should always keep things and communicate very clearly with the user about the different technological updates that you might have in the tool and other settings which might otherwise cause a privacy breach. And finally, the factor is end-to-end security, which means that one should have or make sure that the sensitive and personal data of the user is protective from the moment it is entered into your system until the moment it is destroyed or it is taken or removed from the system. So that is what end-to-end security means. So these 4 principles are important, but there are 7 principles which together form the concept of privacy by design. So now let's look into how this concept of privacy by design will help overcome the privacy related issues faced by e-discovery tools. So there are 4 points mentioned here in the slides. I have covered a few more in the research, but for the purpose of this presentation, let's focus on these 4 points. Let's start with the first one. It talks about scanning bank documents. So the key word here lies in the word approved. So the first thing is, before you scan personal or sensitive data, it is appropriate or it becomes a necessity for you as a part of maintaining privacy of people and entity that you get the appropriate approval from the appropriate authorities. The second point talk about giving access in a restrictive way. So even to become a registered person in the tool or to have access to data in this tool, the person will have to go through 2-factor authentication. So the first factor will be entering their password or a passcode, and the second factor will be an authentication from the network's end. So 2-factor authentication will make sure that the person's KYC is in check, which ensures the person's privacy and the person in front of us is the person who he says he is. The third point talks about retention of data for further purposes or future investigations. So this retention of data will be strictly subjected to approval from the appropriate authorities, and it will only be used for investigation purposes so that it becomes easier for the regulatory compliance monitoring agencies to deal with and to face anti-money laundering transactions head on with this kind of a technology. And the fourth point, but not the least, is the point where we make sure that our tool is compliant to all types of laws within the state that it is being actively providing services. For example, in Canada, there are laws regarding FinTrack, there are laws by PIPIDA, and there are laws by CBA. There are like regulations by CBA. So all will be followed by the e-discovery tool, which will ensure that the privacy of each data that we analyze is maintained and is given priority. So to conclude, I would like to say that by introducing the concept of privacy by design into the system, we have taken a preventive measure or a step to protect the interest of the user by making sure that their privacy is protected and respected. So by also introducing this concept of privacy by design, we are taking care of twofold things. One being that there has been a preventive measure against privacy related issues, which will eventually lessen the data breaches which happens. On the other hand, it also kind of fosters a trust between you and the user, because the user is now in like his privacy is being protected by you, and when the user is aware of this fact, that kind of fosters a trust in a relationship, which is really good for a healthy relationship and good for your future as well. So that is how privacy by design can help a company or a tool to develop, and will be really beneficial if initiated during the designing stage, the concept of privacy. So that is the end of the presentation. I hope this presentation was helpful and informative. And thank you guys for listening to me. I hope you guys enjoyed it.